Hey everybody, it's Persley, and today we're going over part 2 of the grief and loss process. I wanted to do a part 2 to the grief and loss process because, number one, I have to admit, the first video that I did was of a personal nature, and it was educational, but it was more of a testimony than anything else. And those that know understand. I'm doing a part 2 because there's more to the grief and loss process than meets the eye, especially when you're dealing with something that is not permanent or concrete. Let me explain. Not everything you grieve is due to a loss, and not everything you lose will you grieve. What do I mean by that? Let's say, and in the literal sense of things, if you lose a tooth, chances are you probably won't grieve that. You'll actually celebrate that or be happy about it. Say there was a bad relationship. In some cases, a divorce or a breakup, or you find out that things were better when you were no longer together. Initially, the initial sting, the initial dealing with the circumstance or situation may be painful, but in the end, you find out that it was actually a benefit for you to lose that fill in the blank. Take an investment of some sort that you have financially, and it falls through. And later on, you find out that this is something that you should not have gotten invested in. But you don't know that until some time has elapsed and you see the outcomes of fill in the blank. Okay? But what should be understood is that anything that is taken away from you before you're ready for it to be taken away from you will produce some level of grief. So, like, death is a very concrete process. It's very final. So expect there to be some grief with that, along with mourning and maybe even depression. And just kind of give you an idea, mourning is the active action. It is actively acting out the grief that you're feeling. Depression can be a result of that. Of course, we talked about those 7 stages, but sometimes a person can get locked into the depression stage. And when you're in this depression stage, locked into the situation at hand, one will either alienate themselves or they will isolate themselves. And just a brief description: when a person alienates themselves, they do things, deliberate things, specific things, in such a way that causes people to stay away from them. When a person isolates, they just simply remove themselves. They fall back and they don't put themselves in a position to engage with other individuals. Nevertheless, those things are forms of depression. In a grieving process, usually people will try to connect to some degree because they're grieving, they're searching, they're looking for, that whatever that is. Now, what I'm talking about today is not that, okay? What I'm talking about today is directly related to something that, dare I say, is temporary, but something that is certainly not as concrete as death. It's a loss of sorts, if you will, but it's something that is certainly manageable. And depending on the sentimental value that the person has towards a thing that they have lost, dictates how they maneuver with the loss of it. And what I'm here to tell you is that sometimes you got to let things go in order to bring something new in. And a lot of times, not to get spiritual, but a lot of times things take place in your life to allow new things to come in. But it's funny, if you're attached to it and you don't want to let it go, some people will fight and resist the idea of a new phase, a new stage, a new chapter in a book being written in life. And that's natural, it's normal for that to happen. What's not, I don't want to say what's not natural or normal, but what's not okay is being stuck in a holding pattern that's keeping you less than, not more than. The first thing that you're going to want to do is process the situation, talk about it to someone. Talk to yourself, talk to someone, preferably someone, but you need to be able to get through the situation. The only way out of this grieving dynamic is to go through the whole process, but be constructive about the process, not destructive in the process. Build yourself up from the circumstances, not break yourself down and feel bad about what's going on. Because I mean, you could feel bad all the time. It's going to require effort to challenge yourself to get something positive out of the situation. So do that. Be constructive about it. Having someone to talk to is important about these things. And sometimes I've seen people in situations where they have no one to talk to because typically if something has broken off or there's a separation or there is a loss of fill in the blank, someone has talked about it enough times that they don't want to hear, that person they call the support system doesn't want to hear the crisis, conflict, drama of the dynamic. And quite possibly some people are about themselves, who knows? But in any event, you do have cases where people may not want to hear it, but you need to be able to process. You want to process those things that you've gained from it, that you've gained from the circumstance of the situation. You also want to be able to process what you've lost from it. But whether it's loss or whether it's gain, you want to process it from a positive standpoint, if you can find the positive standpoint of it. Okay. Second thing, support system. Get a support system. That person that you can have to talk to. Just because somebody or something says support doesn't mean that it is. Underwear can be a support system, but just because it is underwear doesn't necessarily mean it is supportive. You know it's supportive based on how it feels, not based off of what it says it is. The last thing that we want to be able to do, and it may be difficult in some cases to do so, but the last thing we want to do is, or three, stay away. Basically, get some distance between you and that something. Stay away from the situation, the thing, whatever it is that you've been removed from. Now, in some cases, may be close to impossible to do. So limiting your time with that stimulus is best practice. And when I say limiting your time and what are some cases that may be next to impossible to do, we're talking about a mother or a father of children in a separation where there is tension and all kinds of stuff. Or perhaps it is friendship dissolve because of whatever the case may be. In any event, we recognize that this is no longer the type of friendship we need to have because we have learned new things about our dynamic. I'm not talking about, now remember, I'm not talking about situations where things can be repaired. I'm talking about when there is a finality of knowing that we need to move on and go in different directions. Employment conflicts, working in a different department after some type of tension, etc. Anything that you're going to be in a position to have to change or potentially lose that may have this grief process, these are steps to help ease the process. The less time you spend around it, the less it will impact you and allow you to move forward. So to summarize, talk about it, find people to talk to, and keep your distance from the stimulus. The only way out of your misery is going through the misery. That is a very important thing to remember when you are dealing with getting past this type of grief or loss process. Okay, so there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please feel free, reach me at one of the various social media sites that I have at the end of the video. And keep in mind, in order to receive something new, you have to get past that which is old. And the whole point of the grief and loss process is that it is a process to be able to get beyond that which is impeding your forward progress in life. It is a process. Expect change to be uncomfortable, but change will come as long as you work for it. All right. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Period. Period.